1st, where we're reading Esther chapters 3 through 7. Now, today's reading covers Haman. Haman's bad. At least we can all agree that Haman's bad. And now we have to talk about Esther some more. So I don't really like talking about Esther because I have unpopular theories about it. Esther is, a lot of people think it's an example of good and godly people being good and godly even in adverse circumstances. And you can see God working through behind the scenes through his invisible hand to bless his people. That could be. I personally think Esther is a story about a bunch of morally corrupt people whom God decides to help in spite of themselves because he has something more important going on that they can't be allowed to mess up. But that's just something you have to explore. The written page is going to have a lot more information on that kind of thing. For now, we're just going to summarize Esther 3 through 7 as best we possibly can. So at the end of chapter 2, this is going to be very important. At the end of chapter 2, Esther's uncle Mordecai has saved the king's life, and he gets zero recognition for it. Starting in chapter 3, there's this random man named Haman. He is introduced. I have no idea who he is. He comes out of nowhere. He does basically nothing. He gets appointed to the second highest position in the land, essentially, and Mordecai seems jealous of it. Mordecai won't bow down to Haman. Haman's mad at Mordecai, and so Haman comes to the rational conclusion that he should just genocide the entire people that Mordecai is associated with. Basically, Jews are on the docket in chapter 3, and Haman's going to get ready to kill them all. In chapter 4, of course, Mordecai doesn't like that, so he appeals to Esther. He goes to Esther and says, basically, you're queen, you can say something to the king. If you don't say something to the king, I will rat you out to the king personally. And so Esther goes and says something to the king. In chapter 5, Esther goes and approaches the king the first time. She gets accepted to go before his presence. She says, hey, king, you want to have dinner tonight? And the king says, sure. And so she has dinner with the king and Haman and invites them to dinner the next evening as well. In between those evenings, basically on that very night in chapter 6, the king can't sleep. He happens to read a book that happens to talk about the end of chapter 2, which happened to be the part where Mordecai saved the king's life, which happened to be the one thing that the king of Persia never actually rewarded or recognized. And so as Haman comes in to try and hang Mordecai that very night, the king interrupts him and says basically, hey, honor Mordecai. Mordecai's a pretty cool guy. And so Haman does. He's not very happy about it. Mordecai is elevated. He's incredible. And it just so happens in chapter 7 that as Haman comes to dinner with the king and queen that next evening, the queen accuses Haman of trying to kill all the Jews, which is just true, and Haman gets himself killed instead of Mordecai. Haman tried to kill Mordecai. Mordecai got him instead, accidentally. God is good all the time, even if Mordecai and Esther might not be the greatest people ever. I'll see you next week.